Chairman Miller, Ranking Member McKeon, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for convening this hearing on urban education reform. There's nothing that you will ever do in your lives that is as important as what you're trying to do here. I just wanted to say as an aside that you've just seen a demonstration of the brilliance of Mayor Fenty, who had the good common sense, as I hope I did, of appointing a chancellor that is smarter than we are and supporting them. That's what's happening across this country. There are a lot of bright young people. That's the nicest thing I've ever said about you, young.
Now you're not talking about me.
We all know what has to be done. What we have to do is find ways to do it. Chairman Miller was in New York last winter. We did an event together, and I just wanted to thank him for playing an important role in the No Child Left Behind Act, which has brought accountability to public schools from coast to coast. It is hardly a perfect piece of legislation, but I think in all fairness, Congress and the President, and you in particular, sir, deserve credit for at least trying to address one of the issues that has not been faced in this country basically since public schools were founded. And you're working towards authorizing a new and improved act, and I think anything that we can do to help you, we will be there. We have to focus on the achievement gap that Michelle and Mayor Fenty talked about between different races, different ethnicities, and if you take a look, it is between different economic groups, because we tend to talk about minorities, but there are plenty of districts in this country where you see poor whites that have exactly the same gap between their performance and wealthier communities. Our country is built on the principle that all those willing to work have a shot at success, and in fact, if you take a look at our poverty measures, the new programs we're trying, what we're trying to do is to find those people who set their alarm clock and punch the time clock but still can't share in the great American dream. What we have to do is to give our children the wherewithal to, when they get to that stage, be able to earn a living and have the dignity of a job and be responsible for themselves and their families. And they can't do that unless we here find ways to reduce this terrible gap that undermines that. Today in America, black and Hispanic 12th graders are reading at the same level as white 8th graders on average. Just think about that. It is a disgrace, and unfortunately there are too many people who are willing to accept the achievement gap as the inevitable result of social and economic factors that are out of a school's control. We can have a debate about the history of this country, and we can look for excuses, or we can look forward and try to do something about it. And in New York City, where more than 70% of our 1.1 million public school children are black and Hispanic, we've chosen to not sit back. We've chosen to not look for explanations as to why it exists. Our focus has been on going forward. And over the last 6 years, where we've had a chancellor who has set a record as perhaps the longest-serving chancellor in our school system, and Dr. Hall can tell you in Atlanta, one of the reasons that she's been successful is that she has had the time in office to really affect change and found ways to overcome the politics that constantly create this revolving door of management in our school systems, which keep anybody from being able to succeed. Over the last 6 years, we've done everything possible to reduce our achievement gap, and we have in some cases by as much as half. But to make great progress, we need to zero in on two areas that go to the heart of improving No Child Left Behind and that have been key to turning New York City schools around. One is people and two is accountability, and bear with me for a couple of minutes, and I'd just like to focus on those. First, people. Studies have shown that if our best teachers taught our lowest performing students, we would close the achievement gap to zero within 5 years. And by the best teachers, I mean those that have a proven track record of helping children to learn. Michelle mentioned it, but far too much emphasis is placed on seniority or academic credentials. What we should really be doing is looking at teachers' effectiveness, and that is what we're trying to do in New York City. First, we showed our teachers just how much we value their important work by raising their salaries over the last 6 years by 43%. in over 3 contracts. In return for the 43%, our teachers now teach longer days, more days in the year, give the principals more flexibility. Everybody has been a big winner. And when I came into office, we could not replace the 12,000 teachers that quit or retired every year with certified teachers. Today, the number of teachers on a base of 80,000 that quit or retire each year is down to 5,000, and we have between 50 and 60,000 teachers from across the country applying to get a job in the New York City public school system, something that Joel Klein should be very proud of, but most importantly, our children are the beneficiaries of. Higher salaries will also help us attract a new group of bright young graduates who might otherwise opt for jobs in other fields or in teaching in other locations. Second, we've improved the tenure process so that tenure becomes a meaningful decision based on student learning rather than a foregone conclusion. Sadly, our state legislature has hamstrung us a little bit, but the bottom line is if you want to teach in New York City public schools and you want to have a job for life, you have to earn it and show that if we're going to give you teaching tenure, then you have to teach. Third, we've created financial incentives to encourage the most effective teachers and principals to choose work in the schools that need them the most. You can earn extra money if you go to those schools where the pedagogical problems are the most severe. You can earn extra money if you have the skill sets that are in short supply. The private world works that way. Only place I know that doesn't work that way is in the educational system throughout this country. Finally, we've reached breakthrough agreements with both our principals union and our teachers union to establish pay-for-performance bonuses, an idea that teachers unions have traditionally opposed and opposed vehemently. But by structuring our pay-for-performance program in a ways that puts the decisions in the hands of the teachers and principals, we won support from the head of the local teachers union, Randy Weingarten. You may know that Randy is now the president of the national AFT, and I think that's a good thing because her willingness to experiment could result in more school districts opting for pay-for-performance programs. It is very easy to blame the teachers' unions across the country, and I'm certainly not going to let them off the hook, but we are responsible as well as they are. Having said that, we can change, and so can they, and if we work together, I think we've shown in New York that teachers' unions can be a force for progress and don't necessarily have to be the impediment to that progress. Pay-for-performance leads us to the second key to closing the achievement gap, and that is accountability. In New York City, we have established data-driven progress reports that gives every school a grade every year. We send them out to every public school parent. It was an idea that when Joel announced that people were shocked. They said, what happens if a school gets an F and the parent is told that their child is going to a school that's graded very low? Won't the parent scream? Yes, that's exactly what we want. We want the parents, we want the teachers, we want the students to say that is not acceptable. Our school's letter grade is a progress report determined by many different factors, including its success in narrowing the achievement gap. And these are progress reports in the truest sense of the word because we don't measure how many kids at a given school are proficient. We also measure something that we care much more about, and that is year-to-year progress. We have some schools, Stuyvesant is the one people talk about, where a very large number of those kids are going to be Nobel Prize winners, Rhodes Scholars, scientists, and leaders. We also have plenty of schools where kids don't have the skills to get a job working in the most menial, labor-intensive tasks in our city, and we have to do something about both. So we're concerned about progress as opposed to just taking a look at the status quo.